Hello and welcome to the Adafruit CircuitPython Weekly for June 4th, 2018. I'm Scott. I work on CircuitPython for Adafruit. CircuitPython is an easy-to-use programming environment for microcontrollers, which means small, inexpensive computers. It's a great way for people to get started learning to code. This is our weekly meeting. Every week we get together and we talk about all sorts of different things related to CircuitPython. We talk about core developments that we're doing. We also get folks who are doing projects with CircuitPython checking in, talk about the learning resources that we're working on, all of that and more. The meeting is structured in 4 parts. First, we'll do State of CircuitPython, which is a brief kind of statistics view of how the project's going. And then we'll cover Hug Reports. Hug Reports is a chance for everybody in the voice chat to say thank you to other people from the community for work that they've done. After Hug Reports, we'll do status updates, which is what you've been working on and what you plan on working on in the upcoming week. And then lastly, we'll get in the weeds. So any discussion topics that we thought would take a longer amount of time, we wait till the end to talk about it. If you're interested in joining this, it is a public meeting. Everyone is welcome to join. You can join us on our Discord chat all week, and then in the voice channel we get together for this meeting. To do that, you go to the URL adafru.it/discord. That will drop you into our Discord. And if you want to see back episodes or past meetings, we record them all. We record the chat alongside the audio recording of it. They're available on YouTube. We have a playlist on YouTube, youtube.com/Adafruit. There's a playlist for past CircuitPython weekly meetings, and we do release those publicly as well. So we've been getting lots more views, which is great. You may hear some keyboard noise, hopefully no desk noise anymore. Thank you, Scott. That is me taking notes. So along with the recordings, I post the notes of what we're talking about along with time codes. So you can actually skip around the recording if you want to. With that, we'll get going. We start off with State of CircuitPython. In the last week, as of last night, we had 16 pull requests merged, which is awesome, especially since we're past the PyCon sprint. It's great to see that our pace is still pretty good. This includes not only the core CircuitPython, but also the newsletter and the library repositories as well. 5 different authors, all past authors as well, and 3 reviewers for those 16 pull requests. We've got 5 new PRs, and I wanted to just shout out a few people for authoring those: Godly Geek, Notro, and Mike B. Schneider. Thank you for your PRs. We'll get to those this week. Issues-wise, we closed 9 issues by 5 different people, and we've opened 7 by 5 people. So we are, again, net down the number of open issues, which is great. And in general, we have 127 open issues and 10 open pull requests. Check out the notes for the full list of all of those to make sure to see if anything needs looking at. Downloads wise, beta 0 has 182 downloads, which I think is about 100 more than last time, which is good. 2.3.1 is the latest stable release, and we just broke 2,000 downloads on that as well. I believe we're shipping boards with it, so the number of people using 2.3.1 are a lot higher. Overall, beta 0 seems good. I haven't heard a whole lot of complaints about it. In general, Alpha 6, 3.0 Alpha 6, which is actually shipping on all of the M4 boards, haven't heard any terrible things about it. So that, in general, 3.0 seems very stable, even though we're not calling it stable yet. I'm going to do a beta 1 release this week, just to kind of keep the pace going, and including all of the newest code that we've changed. And we're burning down the open issues list for 3.0, so we should get to the release candidate phase here shortly as well. So that's the state of CircuitPython. Let's move on to Hug Reports. Hug reports is a chance for people to say thank you to other people in the community for the work that they've done. It's a great way to just highlight the positive stuff that's happening in our community. The way that we do it is we do it as a round robin. So I will start, and I actually have Summersoft's hug reports as well. They couldn't make it, so sent me a message earlier, so I'll read both of those. And then we'll go down the list in the voice chat, giving everybody a chance to speak. If you're text only, feel free to just type into the chat and I will read it off in case somebody's just listening to this. Or if you're just lurking, just feel free to say so and we'll skip you as well. So I'll start off, do a time code for myself. First, I wanted to thank Notro for all the clock rework. Notro came along and wanted to do the real-time clock stuff, but in addition to that, made all of the clock configuration for both the SAMD21 and the 51 available from CircuitPython, which is really cool. I don't think a lot of people have looked at it. But not only did that make clocks available in CircuitPython, but it also makes the clock initialization code not depend on ASF4 anymore, which makes it a lot cleaner and clearer. I was doing some work in there and it's much, much nicer. Thanks to Brent R for the unified driver renaming work, including updating learn guides. That's super helpful, and I'm glad that Brent had that view of the whole thing rather than just the drivers themselves. I wanted to thank Dan Halbert and Notro for the reviews on my code. I did a number of pull requests last week, and I appreciate the quick turn time on the code reviews. Dan and Kattni, thank you for your live improvements, including shrinking the LIS3DH. Getting more space in Flash is always good. And lastly, Kattni, thank you for the first draft of the code of conduct improvements. I think it's the right direction, and I'm excited to see that get fleshed out more. Summersoft, do you want to put in your, or I guess you're not in the voice chat. So I'll do Summersoft. Summersoft wrote, Tanut for making the SAMD peripheral functions more modular really opens up some future growth. Dan Halbert for the myriad of troubleshooting on GitHub and Discord and probably the forums too this week. C. Grover for the MIDI boards and exploration. It's inspirational to see that stuff pop up. And a group hug for all the things my exhausted mind can't conjure up right now. So that's Summersoft's hug report, and we'll move on to Carter.
Just a group hug from me this week.
Group hug. Thank you. All right, Stefan. Stefan says, well, let me take a time code. Too many things at once. You all are on the ball. Group hug and hugs to all the PyPI, Thani, and other maintainers, Puny Fourth, Espressa, for the work they've done and for patiently and capably handling issues. Awesome. C. Grover says, group hug and thanks to Dan and Scott for giving some suggestions for how to work with some memory limitations. Thank you. Dan, go ahead.
I'd like to thank Notro, like you did, for doing a lot of stuff. And one of the ways that I figure out who to thank is because people generate work for me to do. Because they point out things. That's a really good indicator. And also, Scott, thank you very much for knocking off a whole bunch of things like rotor.io and for finding the nested interrupt handler bug, which I think was really serious and is a really significant find.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should think about ways of doing that better, but for now, I think that'll get us going. All right, Dave.
Hey, just a general group hug. The beta's looking really good. Version 3 is looking great. And sort of a group hug in advance for all the pestering I'm going to do to everybody if this book deal goes ahead. So.
Ooh. Can you share more details of that?
Yeah, after the group hug section, I'll talk about it.
Okay.
That's it.
What a tease. Okay, Jerry.
there's the unmute. Yeah, not much to report. No, just sort of getting used to being back. So.
Okay. Back from vacation. Katney.
Yeah. So, hug to Dan for helping me figure out how to build with libraries since I haven't done it in so long. I no longer had bash history with that in it, so I didn't know how to get those libraries back.
Right.
Thanks to Scott for helping me get started with Adabot and Travis and so on, because once again, no bash history. So all the stuff I thought I had installed wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And group hug. Trying to think. I know there's stuff I missed, but I didn't write anything down. So that's what I have for this week.
Thank you. Okay, Mike.
Just a group hug for everybody who's put in hard work, but a shout out to Dan. I know what it's like to try to save every little bit of memory. It's really hard to write good code and shrink code at the same time. Sometimes spaghetti code makes smaller code, and that's not what you want to do. So good for you for saving, you know, a few hundred bytes here and there actually make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks, Mike. Roy.
Nothing here.
You're pretty quiet.
Just a group hug for everybody this week from me.
Okay. All right. SDWNJ, aka Scott, says just my standard general kudos to all / group hug. Okay, that was. And Summersoft already went. You don't know that, Summersoft, but I read yours off. Okay. Sorry for the phone call. I don't know if you heard that, but everything in my office rings when I get a phone call because it's all Apple devices. Kind of wish they knew my phone was next to me so that everything else wouldn't ring at the same time. Okay. Next up is status updates. Status updates is a chance to talk about what you've been working on, and then also talk about kind of what is in your brain and on your radar in terms of the upcoming week. It's a great week. It's great because it keeps other people on the same page as what you're working on and may lead to people giving you tips and tricks about the things that you're trying to work on. If it's a CircuitPython related project, it's also just great for us to hear how it's going. I'll give a start. I got rotary encoder support checked in, and Dan helped improve that as well, which is great. Rotary encoders, for those of you who don't know, they're knobs basically, but they're knobs that you can spin all the way around. The ones that you can't spin all the way around are potentiometers. I fixed an audio out bug that Summersoft had basically pegged. I just actually went in and added the one line to deinitialize the timer. So reusing audio outs works now, which is good. I fixed or added back brownout detection. So this one was kind of fun to test. I actually hooked up my M4 Metro just to my variable power supply and basically turned the knob. So I dropped like the voltage down from 3.3 down to 2.3 and saw that it actually like CircuitPython entered safe mode due to the brownout, which is good. I added support for external clocks back to the CMD21, and I re-enabled the calibration stuff in there for Circuit Playground as well. It's mostly important for Circuit Playground because the varying clock speed can change the pitch of notes that are played back, and that's originally when I found it, is when I was adding that original playback support. So that is back in as well in 3.0, which is good. And I think that's about the the remaining bits of code that we left in there commented out. So that's really nice, and that's when I was doing the clockwork. I also fixed a PDM in bug that I ran across as I was doing some of this work. Jerry, I think you've run into this before, where with like the DHT, you'll get a string of pulses, and they're usually like, you know, under 100 milliseconds, but some of them will basically have the valid number plus 1,000. So I fixed some of the tick handling and got rid of those.
Good.
Yeah, so that was tricky. I actually found a case where the PDM-in handler was being called while the tick handler was being called. Basically, interrupts can interrupt other interrupts, which obviously makes it pretty challenging to use TixMS. So I changed some stuff there, and it should be a lot more reliable, which is good. What I'm going to do this week is take more stuff off the 3.0 list. There's a let's not freeze up if we get too higher frequencies into PDM-in. So I'm going to take a look at that. And Dan, if you're not going to jump on the SD card stuff, I'll probably jump on those as well. Because there's like four or so issues related to SD cards that we could knock out. So that's my previous week and upcoming week. I'll read Summersoft's now. Didn't get much further on frequency in, did manage to rebase to current master with the peripheral function changes. That was my mushy brain limit. We'll reattack when I get back later this week. Yeah, I believe Summersoft is traveling and just super busy. So keep up on that. That's good. Carter, how about you?
No status for last week, no progress on anything, but for this this coming week, I just saw what Stefan posted.
Yeah.
For this coming week, I'm gonna hopefully start actually doing some work on that HT16K33 LED backpack stuff. So if anyone wants to join the conversation, there's the issue where all the good chit chat's been happening.
Okay, cool.
So I think Scott, if you are okay with it, I'm going to go the route of kind of doing what was suggested, where we create a new repo for the LED backpack stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then this repo will actually kind of get refactored to where it's just a driver for the chip.
Right. That sounds wonderful. Yeah,
cool.
so yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So to summarize, usually the HT16K33s are paired with a standard GPIO expander, is my understanding. And this would be to split the driver for the GPIO expander from the driver for the actual display driver.
Well, it's kind of a general purpose LED matrix driving chip that you talk to over I2C.
Okay.
And it's kind of the core chip that's used in a lot of the LED backpacks. And you just hook up LEDs to it in different ways, like in a straight line or in a matrix.
Oh, okay.
And you know, it just kind of, and also it has like this key scan thing. So it's kind of meant to, I think, support simple interface hardware that would have buttons and LEDs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a neat little general purpose chip that gets used in various products. I think makes more sense to have a driver that kind of is just for it.
Right.
And then have the LED backpack. So if you read the issue, it kind of starts with a general conversation of like, this library is kind of named a little weird for beginners and stuff like that. And then kind of digging into a little more, it's like, you know, maybe this could be refactored like this.
Right.
And you seem to be on board with that. So
totally.
I'll go ahead and go that route. And so what you're going to see is a PR for this repo that will be pretty significant change to that repo.
Right.
And then you'll see another PR for a brand new repo that has kind of all the backpacks in it.
Let's do the backpacks one first and then remove them from the other one later. Or like,
the work has to be done in parallel, I think.
Yeah.
Because this originally started with me looking at an issue you posted for wanting to kind of just do some minor tweaks to that repo, because they were doing it kind of in a, they weren't using properties, they were kind of using parameters.
Yep.
So I was going to clean that up. So I'll do a cleanup of that, and then the backpacks will use that new version.
Okay.
That have properties. So it kind of will happen all at once.
All right, that's fine. I guess I'm just saying, like, instead of having a gap where it's in neither place, let's do the overlap for a little bit is better, I think.
Well, the current repo has all the functionality in there.
Right.
So it can all, I don't think there's any worry of any kind of overlap where that we'll lose functionality.
Yeah. It's a detail. It sounds like you're on top of it.
Okay. So anyway, that's what I'll start working on.
Awesome. That sounds great.
And if anyone has any last minute comments, please go to that issue thread and chime in.
Yep. And I put that on the notes. Thank you for that.
Cool. That's all I got.
Okay.
I've got audio this week.
Awesome. Go ahead.
So I might save you having to read it all out.
Okay.
I don't know if you recognize that image that's from Father Ted. And he has a car in a raffle, and it's just got a little dent in it. And so he takes a small hammer to try and take the little dent out. It just gets crazier and crazier. And that's how it felt this week. So I started out just really trying to get to be able to produce a video that shows using copy pasting from an editor in combination with AMPI uploading. And the more detailed those instructions became, the crazier they became, and the more obvious it was that something script running client side, or running on the user's laptop itself, delivered via PyPI in a way that could be maintained, was just the most obvious way. So then that expanded into building a new tool. So, but I think it's really worthwhile because now it's kind of 2 lines in a terminal to get from not having anything to being able to connect over USB and flash it with CircuitPython or Puniforth or ESP8266 Basic or any number of things really. It's also a way of being able to archive sort of snapshot builds. So assuming you've got to some point you want to keep it, you can flash from that really easily. And all of these things are just single line commands without really any options, or any confusion, because the all of the options are figured out by the tool. I'm able to adopt, it's simplified in a way because I can assume that it's this hardware that's being used, so it's a 1 meg ESP8266.
Right.
But the upshot is, sorry, there is support for multiple other boards in there. It's just I'm not testing it very much.
Right.
So it can auto detect and find that you've got a 4 meg board or something else. But that's not a configuration that I'm testing. Yeah, so the upshot is hopefully it should be install Python 3 and then launch a terminal, run pip install, and then start. I don't know if that's already too hard, the Python install maybe.
Well, I think making it easier is always better.
But installing Python itself is really hard. I mean, if you go to python.org, finding the thing you're supposed to download, so I've even tried to kind of cover that off a little bit. Let's see if I can find that. But yeah, I mean, again, having people's feedback on any of this stuff would be really great. If there's really obvious stuff that I've forgotten, here's the guide. The aim is to, excuse me, the aim is for these resources to be able to be used separately. So if you want to get a project that starts with, they need pip3,
right,
then you should be able to use the pip3 how-to and just ignore the bit that says, now move to, the Vanguard thing. Right. So I've been building lots and lots of resources like that this week.
Awesome. Documentation is well worth it. All right, thanks for joining us. T. Grover? Did I see you typing? Yes, I did. Besides pushing memory limits due to some large string arrays and trying to use OLED and TFT display libraries for text, been predominantly heads down revising some PCB designs, reaching my limit for hand soldering and need to make some adjustments. Met my hand soldering nemesis, the SOT-723 and the SOT-23-5. Still need to experiment with CPy memory management approaches, but I'm enjoying the learning process. We'll complete the CPy-based DSP-G1 MIDI synth this week. Also plan to send the next batch of 4 Rover PCBs to Osh Park in a couple of days. Off topic, my band's final gig is Saturday, a great 15-year run with my brothers from another mother. Mixed emotions. Thanks for the update, C. Grover, and I hope the final gig is awesome. I'm sure it will be. I've been thinking I need to return back to my toaster oven so I can stop doing hand soldering myself and do reflow as well. So I totally relate to what you're going through. Okay, Dan.
So I spent several days trying to debug the PDMN microphone code on the Circuit Playground Express would crash, would hang spontaneously, and I was having a lot of trouble with that. And it turns out Scott made some other changes which seem to have made the problem go away, which is good. But also in the meantime, we were running out of space on the CPX build because of the larger frozen modules. So I shrank LAS3DH, as Scott mentioned, and I'm shrinking the Express library, also known as the CPX library, by a little bit, which should give us some headroom. And then I'm going to go back to these SD card bugs if I don't get waylaid by something else in the meantime. And yes, I think that's kind of it. There are a lot of loose ends to tie up right now.
Do we have issues for those loose ends, or are you just talking about the...
I'm just talking about the 16 things. Also, Notro, Notro was able to get his CircuitPython in a bad state by having a main.py or code.py that would crash in such a way that didn't crash hard, but would still cause it to get bollocksed up, and it's very difficult to recover from that. Maybe I'll talk about that in the weeds section. Okay. So I was working on making a better Metro M4, making a Metro M4 SPI flash eraser that actually works, because the one that's posted doesn't actually work. So as he discovered, so
yeah, I need to catch up on that. That sounds like really interesting.
Talk to you about that.
Sounds like an interesting issue, because that's what safe mode was meant to save you from.
Right, and this is not. It's not bad enough that safe mode happens because it's not a crash. Okay, so that's what it's a sort of a zombie state that it gets into.
Zombies. Oh no, we're making zombies now.
That's right. We'll have the zombie section. And I hope to do a Cricket project at some point, like maybe make a little AdaBot that uses signal flags to send things by semaphore flags or something. It's a very simple project, but it might be fun to do. All right.
Cool. Thanks, Dan. All right, Dave.
Okay. Hi. So book project. Phil got in touch with myself and Blitz and Sophie about doing a CircuitPython book for A-Press. And Sophie has some other projects, so she had to back away from it, although we're going to pull her back in for some wearable projects and stuff. But Blitz and I are going ahead with it, and we're putting together actually I'm on my other computer, I'm working on an outline. So the idea being it's a book somebody, sees CircuitPython and wants to start using it, they pick up this book, even if they've never programmed before, and dive in.
That's super cool.
And go through with the Circuit Playground Express into the M0 boards, the Feather, and get into Trinket and the Gemma as well. All project based, so everything you learn will be informed by a hands-on project. And eventually go all the way up to the M4 boards and some pretty serious projects, and finish off with talking about writing libraries for CircuitPython and contributing to the community and the code base. So that's the goal. It's a sort of a one-stop book for 0 to 60 using CircuitPython.
Awesome.
And the M0 and M4 based boards going along with it.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great.
So yeah, we'll probably be pestering you guys.
Oh, happy to answer questions.
Yeah, Phil said you would be.
Yeah. That's the approach I take to books. Is like I'm happy to help other people writing books. How about your guide series? Where are you at on that? Like the digital logic one. I saw you did microcontrollers.
So that's pushing forward. There's a couple more parts I want to do on that. The part I'm working on now. So the last one was about MCUs. What are they? What's inside them? Roughly how are they put together? Sort of at a block diagram level. And it delved into serial I/O and into analog to digital conversion and some of the basics of that. The next one is actually going to be designing and building an MCU out of sort of basic 8-bit CPU components and stuff to say, okay, we talked about how it's made up. This is how it, you can actually build one and you can see how it all connects together and it all works. And then I thought the last one would be, okay, well, there's still this black box with the name CPU on it. What's inside that? And delving into that and possibly building a simple 4-bit CPU type of thing. And that would be the sort of the end game for that series.
That's awesome.
As CircuitPython goes, I've got I put out one, which is the EEPROM emulator thing with the rotary encoder and the display. Worked beautifully on the M4, the Metro M4. With so much room left over. It's amazing. So I have Suzanne, my partner, starting to put together one of those Pinbox 3000, the cardboard pinball machine. So I'm going to take that, and when I heard about the Cricut, it's like, oh, that's perfect. I've been thinking about that project. The Cricut is the perfect board for it. So it'll be a CPX and a Cricut, wiring up a Pinbox 3000 because it's got the solenoid drivers and the I/O, and get some score display going, and basically electrify a Pinbox. Or Pinbox.
Are you doing a guide for that? Because that sounds
amazing. Oh yeah, definitely there'd be a guide for that. Yeah, no question.
Okay.
And I've been thinking with the new little chassis and the new TT DC motors. It'd be cool to do a Circuit Playground or CircuitPython based like Segway robot, 2-wheeled balancing robot.
Whoa.
That'd be fun. That would be a neat project.
Sounds like you've got plenty to do there, Dave.
I have plenty to do. Yeah, no problems with that. And also watch anyone that gets Hackspace magazine. We're going to play around with doing a basic electronics monthly column in that.
They were very excited.
So yeah, that's what's keeping me up at night. All kinds of stuff.
Great. That is all amazing stuff.
So yeah, if the book goes forward, that'll be taking most of my focus for the foreseeable future.
That makes sense. It's a big project.
Question that's relevant here. What is the timeline for Circuit Playground? I keep doing that. CircuitPython 3 coming out of beta.
As soon as we finish those 16 issues. For me, it can't be sooner.
Okay. Okay.
My guess would be
Merry Christmas.
A month to. Can we ban that person? Like a month to 6 weeks is my guess.
Okay, cool.
Well, just assume in your book that it's not a beta, that it's actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what we'd be launching. The book would probably be 3 to 4 months is my guess. But yeah, so it'll be out when there's a stable release and whatnot. So that's what we're aiming for. So.
Yeah, I really want to get 3.0 out as quick as we can. So.
Yeah, we want to get the book out as soon as possible to coincide with that as much as we can.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think there's any API changes for 3.0 at all anymore. So
good stuff.
It's all just bug fixes from here on out.
Nice. All right, cool. That's I think that's plenty.
Great.
That's it for me.
Yeah, that is plenty. All right, Jerry.
Yeah, since I got back, I just before I left, I received my Cricut, so I decided to play with that and spend the whole weekend playing with that. They're a lot of fun. But one of the things I was trying to do in that process was figuring out, okay, if I put some wheels on it and make a little something that it can drive around, I need a way to control it. So I thought about using IR to do that, the little mini remote, and ran into some issues with that I'm trying to understand and work out. And that is the new non-blocking IR works, but not, at least not as I expected it to. And I'm just trying to figure out how to make it work reliably. I can't find any examples of actually using it.
Yeah, it's pretty new.
What's that?
It's pretty new, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and so it's a little interesting. So if I come up with a good way, I'll put something out. But if anyone else has any suggestions, let me know. But I'm getting there, and it's been a lot of fun to play with. So learning a lot with that. Also, just before I left, a problem turned up, or somebody tried to use the RFM69 driver on at 433 megahertz, which there's a bug in the code in the way the driver's written that it actually doesn't allow you to change the frequency from 915. So now that I'm back, I'll get around to updating that and fixing that problem so it's there. There was an easy workaround to it, but I'll try and get that updated.
Awesome, thank you.
Then I'll try and just remember what else
Getting back from vacation.
Right.
Totally.
Not wanting to be.
Yeah.
Didn't want to come back.
Yeah. Well, you can always go on vacation again.
I will.
Totally.
Actually, I will be away next week. Maybe I'll listen in, but I have a business trip, so
okay.
We'll see.
No worries. We appreciate everything you do, Jerry. So
thanks.
Whatever time you can give us, we'll be happy to take advantage of. Happy to fix the bugs you find. All right, Kathy.
Hey, so this last week-ish, let's see, I've done up a blog post. I filed an issue about Audio I/O that we're now working on debugging because it's possible that the changes that you made to PDMin have actually fixed that problem. However, I'm having trouble getting it to build, so have to start there. I updated a page on the CircuitPython Essentials guide. There was a missing import that we didn't catch, and I had 2 people bring it to my attention, so I went ahead and fixed that and updated the guide to match it. I'm currently finishing up the guide for the CPX Express class library. One last tiny thing to add, and other than that, the entire thing is done, so that should be live today, I assume.
Nice.
Depending on how that goes. So the things that are on my list is to finish up the code of conduct. I'm going to take on the 3.0 issue we have for expanding CircuitPython expectations. That's a page and that's mirrored into all the guides, and we want to have there needs to be more information in it. Basically, it's sort of going to be a frequently asked questions page with extra information. I have a library that I need to get set up with Travis and into the bundle and set up with Read the Docs. I need to update the Cricut guide to match the CPX Quick Start guide. It's all pretty much the same information, but it just needs to be put into the Cricut guide. So if you have your Cricut or your Cricut kit, you know how to get CircuitPython going and updated and all of that. And I found the changes that were made to Seesaw. Turns out that that breaks the Joywing Featherwing library that I wrote. So when I get a second, I need to go in and change how that works to get that fixed up. We figured that out this weekend when we were trying to get it going, and it wasn't working.
Is there an issue for that?
No, I didn't file an issue. I just wrote down a note for myself.
Okay, that would be good because that's the sort of thing we could potentially find somebody else to pick up as well.
Okay.
Instead of you having to do it.
Yep, good call. So I will write that down. Other than that, I have a bunch of new project ideas that I may not be getting to until next week at this point with everything else that's already on my list. So instead of doing so much of a guide this week, it's going to be more just picking up all the loose ends that I have sitting around because I've been doing guides.
Yep.
Kathy?
Yeah.
In the guide you're doing for the Cricut stuff, for the updates, is it going to have a step-by-step instructions for updating the Cricut software or firmware?
It might. That's not something that's not what I'm doing.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's something that's
I can bring this up later, but I don't think that's anywhere. I figured out how to do it, but it wasn't completely obvious.
Okay.
Somebody will do it, but I don't think it's on Katney's plate. I think it's going to be probably somebody else.
Okay, and it isn't out there yet. Is that correct?
No.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep. So I think that's where I'm at.
Awesome. All right, Mike.
Well, if we're talking about books, I can try to sympathize with Dave. I've been writing a book since about Christmas time. It's in kind of pre-production. It's called it's by Maker Media, called tentatively titled "Getting Started with Adafruit Circuit Playground Express." So it will not just be CircuitPython related. It'll also have MakeCode and some basic Arduino stuff. So they'll start cranking that up in a month or two, I would think. Writing a book, especially in your off time, is very time consuming and painful. I mean, if that's somebody's full-time thing, that's good. But if not, writing a book in your spare time takes a lot of time. So,
what suggestions would you have for people embarking on that?
Well, get a very good idea from the publisher of what they want. Yes, you'll have they'll expect an outline, and try to be as accurate as you can on that, and try to figure out for yourself how much time each thing will take and what kind of documentation. I mean, you think the writing might be long, but I mean, you might also be editing screenshots and all kinds of things that take a fair amount of time. And then getting it all together in whatever format they want. Typically, publishers use a content management system, and you're fighting with that. I mean, if you can write it in Word, then you're lucky, but otherwise, wrestling with what they want you to put it into can be time consuming also. But hopefully this would be my second book for Make, maybe my last, I don't know, but definitely 3 or 4 years between books is probably enough to have me forget how horrible it was to me and my family to spend that much time away. So when I have more information on when that book's coming out, I'll let people know. But in this community, you guys know everything that's in that book as far as Circuit Playground stuff. It focuses a lot on the CPX library that Katney's putting the guide for out probably today. So,
Mm-hmm.
and also again, it tries to steer people to the Moo editor for simplicity, kind of all in one, rather than have to use Notepad and a terminal emulator or something.
Right.
So, okay. Otherwise, I don't think I have a lot on CircuitPython. I'm helping Phil with robots, so you may see some interesting stuff. Cricket interfaced with some old-timey hardware to make something new. So
yeah, that Rob stuff was really cool.
Yeah, it was great that Lamore helped to try to figure out the timings and get that done. So I'll spill the beans to this small crowd here that we got some.
It is recorded.
Yeah, I know. I'm teasing. It's the Capsella building kit from the 80s to the 90s. We've gotten some of that, and it's motorized, and we're gonna hook the motors up to a circuit playground and
nice.
And Cricket and make something cool. So
sounds super fun.
Yeah,
I love interfacing with old hardware. I forgot that I didn't even update on my adventures in that, so maybe I'll do that at the end.
Yeah, and again, I was talking in an earlier chat about Scott's work. I mean, the Adafruit post about the guy who interfaced his own hardware into an NES.
Right, the Raspberry
was
Pi.
rather popular in the community. He used a Raspberry Pi.
Right.
But I think that's going to be a big thing. So, the work that Scott's doing, interfacing CircuitPython to other things, it's a really good time to be playing with this stuff.
Yeah, retro gaming is hot right now.
It is. Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Oh, and I have to pop out real quick. I got another meeting.
All right. Thanks for attending anyway.
Thanks to the community.
Sweet. All right, Roy.
I've been working on the NeoPixel and .star acceleration. Sort of posted the issues there in GitHub so that we can track progress on that, and started the discussion on what I think I want to write there, which is, for lack of a better name, calling out a pixel buff class that's going to be mostly in C, that's going to take over the work of encoding RGB and RGBW tuples to byte arrays so that becomes something fast. And then so I was doing some profiling work last week, which I wasn't able to update live at the time. Found out that we spend a very large amount of cycles doing the processing to convert those tuples into RGB bytes. So I expect we'll see like 5 to 10 times speed up, and possibly more as we optimize some more.
That's awesome.
One of the areas I'm also looking at, or trying to think of how to do it so it's efficient without having to allocate 2 arrays, which I might have to do anyway, is how to deal with the brightness adjustment so that people don't have to use brightness 1 and think about it. But if we're doing the code in C, it might make sense to just say to people, use a brightness other than 1 to just pre-allocate 2 small buffers and have the C side of things manage them. And so I've been having to learn a fair bit about the CircuitPython code as a result of this, so I can figure out how to write a class in C. And possibly on a positive note, I've become very good at crashing my devices.
Did you get set up with a J-Link and stuff?
I did.
Okay.
It's really easy to hook up to the Metro, so that's what I've been using.
Yeah.
I probably should get hooked up to the Feather as well, because I really want to be able to debug when I'm doing performance work on the Feather wings that I have that have got lots of dense LEDs, which are good for testing, and I can actually see any kinds of artifacts very quickly and easily on them.
Yeah,
they're also stupidly bright.
Yeah, wear sunglasses when you're dealing with those. You could just breadboard the Feather wing and just use jumper wires to that from the Metro as well.
Yeah, I was thinking of that.
And Sedacious, who's not in this meeting but is around occasionally in Discord actually made a Metro wing, which is an adapter to Featherwing from Metro. So you could reach out to them to potentially get one of those. I've still not put mine together, but I know Katney had really good. Katney and Jerry, I think, both had good success with it.
Yep.
Cool.
So that's another option. I do most of my development on the Metro just because it's easy. So, and if you don't have it, like always having a second power supply is really handy too, so that it doesn't restart when you're disconnecting and reconnecting USB. All right, and SDWNJ, aka Scott. I don't know whether I should call people by their username or their real name because noob folks will see your username. Anyway, Scott says, I just did a bit of reading / research last week. This week I'm going to concentrate on working my way through the microbit MicroPython documentation and trying as many of the examples as I had the ability to try. Thanks, Roy. Have a great week. Scott says, I've found a few things to recommend documentation improvements for. After getting through the documentation, I'll check out bit.io, and then I'll figure out what to do next. Scott, that's great, and I hope that you have a way to give that feedback and that they actually do something with it. All right, we're dropping people because it's noon. Okay, let's move on to the discussion section, and I'll talk about my Game Boy stuff in this as well a little bit later. But let's first talk about the other item that I had was from Dan. So you want to set the stage for that, Dan?
What were we talking about?
The Spy Flash Eraser and the zombie stick.
Oh, right. So yes. So the issue is that Notro wrote a main.py that caused an error which caused like continuous interrupts or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it never actually crashed CircuitPython. So they had to be able to erase main.py, but they couldn't because CircuitPy, the drive wasn't working properly because of all this. So the only way out of that was to erase the Spy Flash. And there wasn't any way to get into safe mode.
Yep.
Kind of from the board,
Yep.
or something. Sort of like there was no F8 key, which is the Windows way of going into Windows safe mode. Like when it boots up, you hit a certain key.
We actually
doesn't exist anymore, but that's not true. But that's a different story.
For the Circuit Playground, we do actually have a check in there, so we could add it to more boards if we wanted to.
Right. We just don't. I was right. You have like if you hold down both buttons or something.
Yep.
I can't remember.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I was just trying to think if there was any other way to do that on. I can't think of a way to do it on a random board without it being like, well, ground these pins and stand on your head or something like that. And it could always be the case that it might be wired up to cause that state to happen accidentally.
Right.
Perhaps. So.
Another option was we could have like a watchdog timer actually tell when we've gotten into the hung state and restart us.
That's an interesting idea.
I mean, I don't really like that as a solution in general.
No.
Because it's kind of a giant hack, but
right. And I was thinking of a UF2 that is a safe mode UF2, but that's a whole different set of downloads, which just seems kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because this is a very rare occurrence.
Right. So maybe
so
safe mode watchdog is okay.
Yeah, or perhaps just documenting here's how to erase your. I mean, we had these erasers before. It's just that this eraser didn't happen to work.
Yep.
But just to re-emphasize that is a way to kind of recover your whole world.
Right.
So. Also, a couple of us on the mod channel. There was sort of a.
Is this a separate topic?
This is a separate topic.
I'll take a time code then.
Okay. Offline, the off-topic channel sort of comes and goes in terms of its utility, and the question was, is it still serving a useful purpose?
Right.
And I don't know if people have any opinions about that. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other.
I saw that comment in the mods channel, and I like having off-topic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if there's inappropriate behavior in that channel, we should have it covered by the code of conduct, because I don't think that having the channel itself causes this behavior or these discussions. I think that if we didn't have off-topic, they'd happen in jungle or wherever. So I like having off-topic and as a way to just like redirect some things that are off topic, but not against the code of conduct. So I like having it because it is kind of a dumping ground. I think people should feel free to mute it and ignore it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So I'm okay with it, but I do want to make sure that like rather than thinking about is off topic valid, like the channel valid, but rather like how do we inform the behavior of folks to be more in line with what we want?
Right. And if we can, point out like this is even off topic for off topic. Right. I don't know if anybody else has any comments. That's fine. Otherwise, we can.
I'm in agreement.
Okay.
I think it would just, whatever issues we're having there would move somewhere else. And if we're having issues anywhere on the server, we need to moderate them the same as we would in any channel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. If it got out of control, there's something else wrong, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just because it's off topic doesn't mean we have to accept inappropriate things from it.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. Brent, did you have hug reports and status updates that you wanted to do? I know you came in late and then I forgot to give you a chance.
Yeah, sure. I'll give a hug report to Scott, Katney, and Dan. Scott for moderating the SGP30 stuff that I've been playing with the last few days. And then Katney and Dan for the discussion we had about the rotary encoder last Thursday. And then as far as status updates,
Hold on.
Oh.
Sorry, you're talking way faster than I have the ability to type.
Oh, no problem. I was trying to avoid the background of the machines.
Oh, that's fine. Our listeners can deal with a little background noise. And then status updates. Okay, go ahead.
So I updated the SGP30 to use that new naming that we're using for sensors, which is lowercase. And then I updated the example, just waiting for that to be pulled in, updated the learn guide for that, and then updated the CCS learn guide as well.
Awesome.
And I'm mainly on IO stuff right now, but I wanted to add a IR sending example to the IR library, so there was a pull request for that. I don't know if it got taken care of yet.
Okay. So that's worth looking out for and getting reviewed.
Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, I will be another topic in the weed section, and I just wanted to say I spent a lot of hours playing with my Game Boy cartridge over the weekend. I had some alone time. My fiance was hanging out with other friends, so I got to stay up till like 2:30 in the morning on Saturday, and I got it where with CircuitPython running on the cartridge, I can now replace the logo at the startup. So a typical Game Boy with a cartridge in it will, like the word Nintendo will scroll down from the top. And I've figured out how to give it data so that that logo changes, but then the second thing it reads is actually the logo. It reads the logo twice. The first time is to display it, and the second time is to validate it. And because the cartridge can dynamically return stuff, we can actually change it and then still pass the validation that it has. So I've gotten to the point where the Game Boy CPU is running no ops endlessly, as given by the device. So to do that, I had to do SAMD51 work. I played around with the CCL, which people may not have heard of. It's the configurable custom logic or something. It's basically 4 lookup tables that can take a variety of inputs and generate a signal as a result, which is really neat. I'm using it to handle the memory mapping and the read state of the bus. So I take in 3 signals. I take in A15 and read and clock, because you're only, as a cartridge, you're only supposed to output your data when the clock is low and the read is low and your A15 is low, which is your memory map. And so I just pipe those 3 signals into the CCL, and then I have a signal within the SAMD51 I can use either to just output it. There's a buffer chip that I turn on and off the output for using that signal, but you can also use it for DMA, which is really neat. So that's on the way of getting to the point where we can actually generate instructions for the Game Boy on the fly. I've been starting to look more at Pygame 0 and how games are implemented, Pygame and Pygame 0, and how games in general are implemented in Python, and then trying to intersect that with the way that games work on the Game Boy, where they're explicitly sprite based and every sprite only has 4 colors and they have a palette and stuff like that. So kind of doing a lot of pre-work, because I have this world of in mind where you can write a game kind of once with maybe different assets and play it on a stock Game Boy or a Game Boy Color or the game handheld that we're working on for Adafruit. And it kind of just applies most places, which or Game Gear. So that would be all super cool. And so I'm thinking a lot about that. I made some good progress with all that, and using the SAMD51 in ways that we typically haven't, which is exciting too. Like to write data out, I'm writing 8 pins at a time and reading 16 pins for the address and stuff. So it's fun. All right. Anybody have anything else they want to talk about before we wrap up?
I had a question that maybe Dan can address, or somebody. It used to be that, when you did a clone of the repo, all you had to worry about was doing a git submodule update, recursive.
Right.
But more recently, something's changed, and I'm frequently running into problems with tags not being proper. And Dan gave me a fix for that. You're running another command that's running to for each and updating the tags. That works fine.
Right.
I guess, are other people running into that? And is that just something now, something that's changed in the way we do things that requires both of those steps?
Yeah, it's specifically the modules in Frozen. If their tags get behind, they can be updated without their tags being updated. And I think this problem has maybe always existed, but we hadn't updated the Frozen modules in a long time, like months. And then we started updating them much faster.
So the key is when you see a Frozen update, a Frozen module update, then you need to trigger this. And that's usually the only time then.
I think so, and I've been trying to figure out why. I see conflicting comments about whether Git does it right or not. And so it's confusing.
I guess it doesn't hurt to do it. So I'm just trying to get into that habit now. But it just, I don't know if I'm sort of surprised I haven't seen more comment about it, because certainly it's caused me some problems trying to build.
Right, and or it might have been if we forgot to make a release, but then when it didn't, well, if it sort of got out of sync or something by accident, and there wasn't a proper tag at the time. I don't know. I can't duplicate this consistently.
Okay.
So if it would certainly be good for it to do the right thing automatically, maybe. Like if I can catch that error, which happens inside some Python script somewhere, and say, oh, let me just try to do a pull minus tags here or something, and see it, or tell you about to do that or something like that. Yeah, I'd like to figure out how to duplicate that problem.
The only reason I brought it up is I know, at least in the beginning, early on, there was constantly people, needed to be reminded and to do the submodule updates. That was always a problem, and this is just another little hidden thing that may trip people up when they're trying to.
And have you noticed this on both the Mac and the Raspberry Pi?
I rarely use the Mac for compiling, so I haven't checked it.
Or on Ubuntu and the Raspberry Pi? I mean,
I've only done it on Ubuntu. That's the only place I've run it.
Okay, yeah, it may be that it's been fixed in the new version of, but I thought we checked the version of Git that you're using, and it was pretty it was the same as mine, something. So
actually, it may be behind, but it's not. So I don't have automatically update. I'm only taking the updates on Ubuntu when they're pushed out. I'm not PPA set up for that.
Right. I had a PPA, and I've also upgraded to 1804 as of a week or two ago. So,
okay.
Which has a much newer version of Git. What's going on in Git, for the edification of other people, is that they've been Git submodule update used to be implemented as a shell script, and now it's implemented in C code, and it may be better now than it used to be. But I have not been able to. I read through all the release notes, and they didn't say that they fixed it to pull tags at any point in the release notes. So it's really hard to tell what's going on. But you haven't seen this, Scott, right?
I haven't run into it at all.
No.
I mean, usually what happens is I'll switch branches and I'll do just git status after that, and I'll see that oh, this thing is at different tags, and I'll just git submodule update to get on the right tags.
And I think if you do a clean clone and then a submodule update, then it's fine. It's only if you do a git pull and then a submodule update and then don't forget to do the rest, then you get in trouble.
Yeah, I rarely do a git pull. Actually, I usually do a fetch and then a merge fast forward, which is equivalent. But
yeah, and Jerry, this is in your fork, not in a clone of Adafruit CircuitPython, right?
No. This is in a I do most of my work in a clone of Adafruit CircuitPython.
Right.
And so that's
okay.
The only time I use the fork is if I'm creating a PR. And I do it.
All right. It might have something to do. Okay. That may or may not be a clue.
Right.
Okay.
And there's no actual need to have two different folders on your computer either.
Two different which?
Like, for your fork, you could just have it as a different remote in the same local repo.
Yeah, I'm slowly learning.
Yeah, and it took me a while to get that, but once I realized that it's just another place to pull stuff from.
Right.
That's why I encourage everybody to just name their remotes after the user who it is, so I can git push tan newt something, some branch, and then that becomes a PR rather than doing git push Adafruit or whatever.
Well, Scott, your repo is extremely unusual because it's actually it's a fork of MicroPython, not Adafruit CircuitPython.
Right. Well, that's because it's because I did it really early, but it's actually what displays on GitHub is actually GitHub state. It's not Git state. So I could delete it and then refork it through GitHub so the GitHub state changes, but I don't care that much.
Well, when I've cloned your repo and then built things in it, the version tags are MicroPython's version tags. You get a version 1.9.3 dirty.
But that's probably from my master branch.
Yeah.
Which is
yeah,
probably
yeah.
not up to date because I don't really
Yeah.
use the master branch at all.
Okay.
I could push it for you if you want.
You just push the tags, yeah.
Oh, that I could do that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just the tags don't match. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little annoying sometimes when I create pull requests. It'll do it based like pull request to MicroPython, and it's like, oh, you can't merge this. I'm like, yeah, obviously.
Right. I've done that.
It's only hundreds of
created
commits.
a pull request against MicroPython once and said,
yeah.
"No, sorry, bye."
Yeah.
Close this. Pay no attention.
Yeah, but I haven't seen the issue Jerry's talking about.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll keep an eye out, Jerry, and see if when it shows up again, I'll try to figure out what state my repo is actually in that caused that.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to wrap us up. We're over our hour. Everybody, thanks for joining. For those of folks who have had to drop out early, thank you for joining. This is the Adafruit CircuitPython Weekly. It happens every week on Mondays normally at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time in the U.S. Obviously, everybody from the world is invited. Those are just the 2 time zones we say. If you want to join us on Discord anytime during the week to text chat us, and then this voice chat happens at that time. The link to join the Discord is adafru.it/Discord. That'll get you on there. These recordings, along with the notes with time codes, go up on YouTube shortly after the video. They're also linked to so on YouTube, it's youtube.com/Adafruit. They also end up in the Python newsletter. You can go to adafruitdaily.com and do the Python for Microcontrollers newsletter. It goes in the news from around the web section. So both this week's and last week's will go because last week was on Tuesday. We do occasionally change the time, so check our Discord channel and pin posts for any notifications on different times. Anyway, again, thank you everybody for joining, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, everyone.